Hello. Today I'm going to discuss one of the most important topic of the chapter, the rise of nationalism in Europe. From this chapter, today I picked a topic, the making of nationalism in Europe. Let us compare the political map of Europe of mid 18th century with the present political map of Europe. We notice in present political map of Europe, there are some countries like Germany, Italy, Switzerland, and many other powerful countries shown in the political map of present day Europe. But these important countries' name was missing in mid 18th century political map of Europe. You know why? Because during mid 18th century Europe, there was no concept of nation state. There was no concept of nationalism. There was no real growth of nationalism, the idea of nation state. Let us analyze why idea of nationalism and idea of nation state was missing in mid 18th century Europe. Let us first analyze politically. Politically, we know that Europe was ruled by some powerful states like Habsburg Empire, ruling from Austria-Hungary. But beside this powerful state, there are number of smaller princely states prevail in different parts of Europe. Or we can say Europe was ruled by autocratic monarch. And in most of the autocratic monarch, what we notice that this monarch comprised subjects of different linguistic group, subject of different cultural identity, traditional identity, and ethnic identity. And more important thing here is that people living in these autocratic state did not share similar culture, similar tradition, and we can say that people were not till date people did not develop feeling of collective belongingness. They did not share similar culture, and more or less they feel cheated, or sometimes they realize that they were exploited by autocratic monarch. For example, Habsburg Empire from Austria-Hungary. Do you know Habsburg Empire was known in history as the patchwork of many different regions and people. Now, why Habsburg Empire was known as patchwork of many different regions and people? Let us analyze. First point, it included the Alpine regions and Bohemia. Bohemia, where aristocratic class used to speak German language, used to follow German culture. Another point, Habsburg Empire also include the Italian-speaking territory of Lombardy and Venetia. These two territory, Austrian Empire get after signing the Treaty of Congress of Vienna. Another point which we consider here, let us analyze the subjects of Hungary. Here we find that half of the population living in Hungary spoke Magyar language, while other half spoke varieties of local dialects. Means people living in Hungary, people living in Lombardy and Venetia did not share and follow same culture, same language, and same tradition which was followed by the ruling house, the emperor, because we know that Habsburg Empire ruler speak German language, follow German culture, follow German tradition, but subjects of Austrian-Hungarian Empire, that is Habsburg Empire, did not share same language, same culture, same tradition, which was followed by their ruler. Then question arises, what bind subjects living in Habsburg Empire? The only reason, only thing which bind people or which make people loyal to Habsburg Emperor was their alliance, devotion or loyalty to the ruling house. This is only fact which bind different people living under Habsburg Empire, because at no point of time they were culturally associated, linguistically associated, traditionally attached with the ruling house. So something was there in their mind that they were different from their ruler. They did not belong to the empire, Habsburg Empire. And that's why they want to create a separate nation, separate identity for themselves. And this may be the reason which act as a catalyst, act as an important point in coming time. And that's why we saw emergence of nation state after mid 18th century. Now, let us analyze another factor which helped in rise of nationalism and the idea of nation state. Here we discuss the meaning of meaning and role of the aristocracy. We know that aristocracy represent an important class living in Europe during 18th, 19th and 20th century. Their importance in society, polity and economy was due to the fact that they control means of production. For example, the aristocracy and aristocratic class people own states in the countryside, and on these states they hired the service of tenants, peasant tenants, and with the help of these peasant tenants they used to get their land cultivated. But condition of Central and Western Europe was slightly different. The aristocratic class living in Central and Western Europe used to practice serfdom. They used to maintain serf, and with the help of these serf, they get their land cultivated. And in course, they accumulated huge amount of money, huge wealth, because they were involved in exploitation of peasants, exploitation of serf, and that's why they establish dominance in social and political sphere of the society. Now see how they strengthen their bond, strengthen their position, strengthen their power. Is there any specific thing which identify aristocratic class people, which bind aristocratic class people? Yes, their common way of life and living style. Aristocratic class living in any part of Europe, they follow similar living way. To strengthen their bound position, they also follow marriage. They bind different family through ties of marriage. And more important, they used to speak French language, the language of elite. And this separated them from common mass. And another important point, the aristocratic class people, though numerically a small group, but politically, socially, and economically very, very powerful group. Second, we try to assess the major population living in Europe during this period. And the major population comprised of peasantry class, because agriculture was the mainstay of economy during this period. So peasant comprise the majority group of people living in Europe. But changes were taking place, especially after 1750s, or we can say during mid 18th century. Europe witnessed one of the biggest historical change, and that change was industrialization. Because in England, industrialization begins around 1760s. And from 1760s onward, large number of changes were observed in Britain. For example, industrialization accompanied urbanization. That means development of cities, development of towns, expansion of education. We have example of Cambridge and Oxford, which was set up around 14th century. And by this period, these university attained maturity, started showing result, and started promoting education among large group of people living in England. It was true that industrialization begins in France and Germany late, somewhere around 19th century. But once it started affecting socio-economic and political structure of Germany and France also. Now let us analyze how industrialization affected society. In society, due to industrialization, we observe emergence of a new class, that is working class. And these working class, along with traders, businessmen, industrialists, professionals, intellectuals, started identifying themselves as middle class. And it was rise of this middle class during this period laid strong foundation of liberal movement, laid strong foundation of political movement. They started movement for their political rights, for their social rights, for their economic rights. And it was middle rise of middle class which started challenging the privileges granted to aristocratic class people, nobility class people, and they started talking about equality, highest level of equality in the society, right? So idea of national unity following the abolition of aristocratic privileges gain momentum and popularity in Europe, and courtesy goes to educated liberal middle classes who popularize this demand and manage to get the support of common mass of the society. Now let us analyze what is liberal nationalism. No doubt, we have already discussed the meaning, the concept of nationalism. Now, what is liberal nationalism or liberalism? If we try to assess this word, we find that term liberalism is derived from the Latin root liber, meaning free. So, first point we are going to conclude here, liberal nationalism talks about freedom, talks about more and more rights to common mass. For middle class, the most aggressive class, the developing class, liberalism stood for freedom for individual and equality of all before the law. They talk about rule of law, equality before law, freedom for individual. And this idea started gaining popularity during this period. In other words, we can say liberalism stood for a philosophy, ideology, which advocates individual freedom and creation of social, economic, and political institutions on that basis. Means individual freedom plus they want to establish social, economic, and political institutions, rules, and regulations which promote or which establish freedom and equality for one and all. So this is the broader meaning of liberalism. Now let us analyze the broader meaning with respect to their political demands. What were their political views, how their political views challenge the existing political views. The first point we like to mention here, in its political sphere, the liberalism rejected absolutism of all kinds, and in the economic sphere, it favored laissez-faire, unrestricted movement of trade, capital, and goods. They also advocates freedom of markets. They do not want state restriction, state imposition on economy. So they want complete political freedom. They oppose absolutism, despotism, serfdom, slavery, and were in favor of unrestricted trade. Another point, liberal views in political sphere. What is their political ideas, political thought? In politics, they want a government by the consent of the people. Once again, I'm repeating very important point. They want a government by the consent of the people. They wanted end of autocracy and clerical privileges. Recall France, first stage, second stage, where privileged class, commoners and privileged class. So they want end of privilege-based social stratification, and they want a society where no privileged class is permitted to exist. Third, they want a constitution and representative government that rule country through a parliament, through a lawmaking body. They talk about right to private property. They want safety and security to private property. But one drawbacks of liberal nationalists, they did not talk about universal adult suffrage. Universal adult suffrage means right to vote granted to one and all citizen living in a country without any discrimination on any ground, any basis, like on the basis of color, caste, creed, religion, culture, tradition. Take example of revolutionary France, the first nation in world where experiment of liberal nationalism, liberal movement was witnessed. And what was the response of liberal revolutionary after the successful launch of beginning of French Revolution in 1789? Was they accepted universal adult franchise? No. They, at that point of time, create discrimination in the society by giving electoral rights only to propertied class. That means they did not consider women and those male who do not possess property or pay tax of 3 days income to French government eligible for right to vote. And this discrimination against women and male continued even in 20th century. There was a short duration during Jacobin era, Jacobin rule. Very important point, note it. During Jacobin rule, Maximilian Robespierre extended right to vote to all adult male living in France. Now, just consider this point. Even Robespierre did not included women, did not extended right to vote for women, but he extended right to vote for all male living in France. So this is one special moment in the history of France when at least all male members were considered for electoral rights. But things became worse for women when Napoleon came to power. When Napoleon became Emperor of France, and Napoleon once again revoked all the changes in right to vote made by Jacobins. He returned back to old system, right to vote only for propertied class, male people, and female and male not having property continue their struggle in 20th century till 20th century. So these conditions created platform for rise of nationalism, for promotion of idea of nation state. Now let us consider liberal nationalist view in economic sphere. This is all about political sphere, what we have discussed. In economic sphere, liberal views are as follows. First, they demanded or believe in freedom of markets. Means no restriction on flow of goods from one nation to another nation. Second, they demanded abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Because this was very important. In state imposed restrictions, number of states used to charge heavy taxes, custom duties, and that affect interest of the capitalist class. So they oppose this. Not only affect the interest of capitalist class, it also affect the prospect of world trade. And that's why they were in favor of abolition of state imposed restrictions. Right? Beside this, they want to develop a market where industrialist class, business class, traders class enjoy more and more freedom. And that's why during early 18th century, a custom union came into existence by the initiative of Prussia. For the first time in 1819, Prussia was successful in establishing, settled a custom pact with small German-speaking states, and laid the foundation of a custom union with name Jolvarin. But formally, on 1st January 1834, a custom union was formed at the initiative of Prasa with name Jolvarin. And by 1834, majority of German-speaking state joined this Jolvarin. Now, which German state? Try to recall. German Confederacy of 39 states, which was created by Napoleon and remain unaffected even during Congress of Vienna. And Austria take the command, the leadership of German Confederacy state, failed to understand the importance of Jolvarin. Why Prussia was showing interest in establishment of a custom union. We know that the establishment of Jolvarin by Prussia ultimately helped Prussia in attaining unification of Germany. And this was not calculated by Austrian ruler. And that's why they did not oppose or decided not to join Jolvarin. We can compare Jolvarin with present day European Union. What is this European Union? You might be knowing. European Union was established with sole purpose to smoothen trade between European nations, allow free flow of goods, services, technology, capital from one European country to another. And more important, at the time of crisis, they started providing security to each other, a sort of military tie also. They adopted one single currency, euro. Their volume of trade is just after USA. So this is the importance of custom union or custom group. And Prussia realized it in 1819 and gave a concrete shape by 1834 by involving all German-speaking states as member in this very Jolvarin. Because before the establishment of Jolvarin, the business class, the traders faced huge difficulty, lots of difficulty. They were asked to pay custom duties at number of places. But now they were relaxed because after the establishment of Jolvarin, following changes were noticed. First change, it abolished trade barriers and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2 only. See, in European Union, only 1. In Jolvarin, 2. So this was a biggest change of that moment. They tried to unify their currency. They tried to make one currency for whole unit. Second, member states will entertain free trade without paying taxes on their goods. Very important point. Earlier, the traders will have to pay custom duties at number of trade barriers, and that affected their trade interest. That affected cost of the goods. reaching from one country to another country, and that also affected consumer. So at this point, consumer is also getting benefit. Third, they emphasized on construction of railways and other means of communication, because development of means of communication means freedom, means freedom of movement of goods and services. So in conclusion, we can say that the main purpose of formation of Jalvarin was to create a unified economic territory, allowing the unhindered movements of goods, people, and capital during that period. And this very Jalvarin not only helped Prussia, but it helped other European countries also. So after strengthening their economic position, European nation started demanding, the middle class of European nation started demanding their rights, more and more powers in their hand, and that demand laid the foundation of nation state. They started demanding government by the consent of the people. So from here comes the idea of nationalism, idea of nation state. So with this point, today I'm concluding this video. Okay, thank you very much.